Nika Diwa is TikTok's most hated family channel.
Could you ever cheat on me?
Absolutely.
At the moment, at least. There's like 10 others that we all despise as well. But this one in particular has gained infamy for some avant-garde parenting techniques, such as handing your baby over to random strangers on public transport. And who could forget that classic parenting technique of going absolutely insane for no reason at completely arbitrary moments? They're also really popular for talking about how African their baby is and stereotyping them a lot. Look, as always, there's a lot to delve into here, so before we get into all that, be sure to subscribe to the channel, because if you don't, I'm gonna get really angry and destroy a small nation like Luxembourg. So if you don't want that blood on your hands, you better get subscribed. Especially if you're from Luxembourg. Anyways, here's a little introduction to Nika's channel.
I started this platform because I had postpartum depression and needed somebody to talk to. I'm a wife, mama, and mental health advocate that hopes you feel safe here too. After 6 years of abusive relationships, I finally have the family I prayed for. I'm super far from perfect, and half the time I don't know what the heck I'm doing. But let's figure this out together. If you want to keep it kind and you want to keep it real, welcome home.
So as you can see from her own introduction, it's pretty standard sort of family channel sort of vibe. And she got popular alongside stuff like that, and also like dating videos where she would match people up with other people. That's not too relevant for this video though, but it is how she got popular. As you can also probably tell, she has that whole vibe where we're all friends here, we're all a great big community, and all my followers are all my friends. Some people, I guess, vibe with that sort of thing, but to me, it's always given me the sort of vibe of like, you know when you go into an office job and they're like, in this office, we're not just workers, we're all one big, happy family. I've been in places like that before, and I'll be honest with you, whenever someone says anything like that, I want to punch them square in their fucking face. It really pisses me off. Anyway, we're getting needlessly critical over what is without doubt the least offensive video that we will cover today. Anyway, let's look at one of her most popular, like, recent videos, which people have labeled as sad fishing. Was vlogging when I caught a moment of what overstimulation looks like. With a colon as well. I will say, I appreciate the grammar, if nothing else. So this is a video that gathered a lot of rather mixed comments, I'd like to say, because some people think that it looks very forced, and other people think that it's really relatable and good that she's putting something like this out there, because it's going to help a lot of people who genuinely do feel overstimulated at points. Now, me personally, I don't want to be unfair here and immediately go off on her for being annoying, because yes, it does seem quite forced, especially the way she looks at the camera. It's like if I'm genuinely having like a bit of a mini breakdown and I'm fucked, like I can't think of anything, I see red and I'm seething, I don't usually look at the camera that I've set up for my wee family vlog to see what I look like to everyone watching me. It does come across slightly as though she's very worried about how people are perceiving her in this moment of weakness, I guess. Which, if you're really having such a moment of weakness, would that even be in the forefront of your mind? Maybe, who knows? At the end of the day though, I think that at the end of this video, it'll be very interesting to sort of come back to this and see if our judgment changes at all, because there is a lot of, in my opinion, very obvious rage bait on this channel and a lot of really bad acting, so it's very possible that with the context of everything else, you'll see this one as a lot more of a clear acting job than you might already do. Like, I'm willing to bet 90% of the people who think that this is a genuine reaction would change their mind by the end of this video. Yeah, I'm looking at the way she falls over, and it does look very, very rehearsed. And not even rehearsed well, it looks like it was really badly rehearsed. And then the scream is like the sort of scream you do at 3 AM when you're a 10-year-old who doesn't want to wake their parents up because you're up too late. Even without the context of everything else, it does look horrendously fake, but I don't want to jump to conclusions that quickly. But this is where things start to get a little bit more concerning, a little bit more questionable, and it starts to make you wonder, like, ooh, are these really the best parents to be putting how to parent their children online, and people have to, like, look up to them as ideal sort of parents, if that makes sense? I'll let the video do the talking. This is one of the most popular ones, and it's concerning to say the least.
Mommy, were you wrestling with Guy last night?
Why do you say that?
I heard you say pin me down.
Well, we were wrestling for fun.
Who won?
I won first, and then your dad won after.
Oh.
Yo, can I just say, before I comment on this video, the top comment is very, very odd, and I'm scared by it. Wrestlers indeed. Next time, make her your referee. I don't know who Matilda IFY393 is, but whoever that is, they need to be checked out. This is not an appropriate thing to say. I'm not having anyone chat shit. That's not an appropriate thing to say, is it? I know I'm not a mum. I know I'm not a dad. I know I'm not a parent, right? Not from what you know anyway, but that is not good. I do not like that. And nor is this video. This is a very fucking odd video. One, because it's not real. Like, it's definitely not real. There's no way that they just so happened to be recording just as their kid was asking them about their wrestling match they had last night. There's no way it's real. So what's happened is she's given the kid a fucking script to read from. Like, no one can tell me this is a real, authentic moment. If you look at the dad's face, it says it all, really. He's no fucking Ben Stiller. I don't know why I chose him of all actors. He's like the most rogue pick ever. Also, I could not have picked a whiter actor to play this black man, but you know what I mean. He's no actor. Like, it's very obvious that this is a fake situation. Is it controversial to say that I don't think you should use your child in content that is revolved around you and your partner shagging? Is that bad? I feel like that's pretty reasonable. I feel like that's a pretty reasonable take from me. I don't think I'm gonna get much shit for saying that one.
More, baby? Yes, my love. All day. More? Can you show more? Say hi to the camera.
So I personally think that this video is perfectly fine. Your kid's not finishing their food. You don't want to force them. You don't want to shove the food in their fucking mouths. Me personally, when I wouldn't finish my food, no matter how cold and disgusting it was, my parents were like, cling film it and eat it the next day. And if you don't eat it, then you're not getting anything else. Like, I'd have to finish that food before I was able to eat anything else, which was fair enough looking back. This is a much more novel technique, which I actually appreciate. I think it's a good idea. I don't know how important it'll be for this video, but the mother is indeed Filipino, and they're in the Philippines at this point, so she just took it upon herself to take her to a wee orphanage and show her to be more grateful for the food that she has in her life, which is fine, right? I think that's totally fine. A little bit extreme, sure, but fine. But it is contradictory, some people have said, to this video. Our generation was taught not to leave the table until all our food was finished. I'm teaching my daughter she can trust her hunger cues. She's done when she feels she's done. Now, this does seem contradictory. I guess maybe she could make the point of like, oh, she's eating the food, but she can stop when she wants to as long as she finishes it later. Me personally, I'm aware that every family has different rules at the dinner table. What my family did is very different to what your family probably did. Me personally, I would have the rules be like, you can eat whatever you want. If you don't finish it, that's fine, but it needs to be eaten at some point. You're not allowed to leave, though, until everyone's finished. No one is left alone at the dinner table, in my opinion. And also, if you don't finish your food, you're not allowed to ask for a fucking snack 20 minutes later. Like, I'm not allowed to see you snacking on any Cocoa Pops or some shit. If you don't finish your bastard chicken breast, you're not allowed the Twix bar. But luckily, she's made a response video to her being called out on this contradiction, so we'll hear her out. Let's see what she has to say.
You were absolutely right about that. I was wrong. I used to think that that was the goal, to like teach your kids to finish everything on their plate, because I was taught that, but I'm now putting more emphasis on her listening to her own body cues. Let you in on a little secret. Parents don't really actually know what the heck we're doing. We're just making it up as we go along. We really love our kids. We do our best. When we find out better, we do better.
I unironically think that's a great response. I don't know what else to say to that. Like, I'm in full agreement. I think it's better to, you know, listen to your body. When you're not hungry anymore, you're not hungry anymore. I also think it's important for parents to control the portion sizes that they give their child so that the child can actually finish it. Because I remember when I was younger, my dad would sometimes give me the same portion that he had, and I wouldn't be able to finish it because I was a tiny baby. For me, I think the elite strategy is just to do small portions, and if they finish it and want more, then they can have more. Not to give them a big portion that they potentially can't finish.
When mommy feels sad, painting makes her feel better.
What are sad colors for you? Sometimes I feel sad because I miss my colors. Why do you feel sad, Mama?
I feel sad sometimes because I feel like I'm not a good mama.
Hey, Mama, you don't have to be Mama. You just have to be my Mama. Color print the color of my Mama.
Oh, can I?
Now, this definitely looks harmless on the surface. It's not something I personally agree with. Like, I don't think this is the right way to go about raising your child. Again, who am I to really say that as somebody who isn't a parent? But if I explain myself, maybe some of you will agree with me. I feel like this is placing a lot of burden on your kid. I feel like this is almost instilling into your child that it is their, like, almost job to reassure you that you're being a good mother, as opposed to just, you know, being a good mother. And obviously, look, as much as I don't agree with this thing, it's not the biggest crime in the world, right? She's not uploaded this and had the whole internet lynch her for it, and rightfully so, because it's not that bad. It's just something that I personally disagree with. This is the sort of conversation that maybe you can have with a partner every now and then, but you can't do it too much because then you are putting too much of the burden on being a good partner on your actual partner. Like, you can definitely have a conversation with whoever you're with. Like, sometimes I just feel like a piece of shit boyfriend or girlfriend or son even, right? And then they can have a conversation with you about that and you can work out your issues. With your kid, I feel like it's a lot less acceptable because your kid does not have the emotional maturity to work through that sort of shit with you. And if that's something you're bringing up constantly, like every day, then I can definitely see that being an issue in their future. It's just a lot of pressure for somebody that young to be able to handle, especially when it's with their own parent, if that makes sense. And as much as I say that it's okay sometimes when it's a partner or somebody who isn't a kid, that only works to a certain extent as well. Like, you can't be bringing this shit up constantly because it is almost emotionally manipulative in my opinion. Now, that one was rather tame, but this is where shit starts to get a little bit heavy because there's a lot of medical misinformation that she gives on her parenting account, which, if there's one thing you do not want to give to up-and-coming parents who look up to you, it's medical information regarding their children. Like, this one in particular is to do with eczema, so we'll give that one a watch.
My pediatrician switched her formula to Nutramigen. In 24 hours, her eczema was cured.
Hi, my name is Dr. Rubin. I'm a board-certified pediatric allergist. This is for general educational purposes only, not specific medical advice, but I would be careful when considering eliminating a food in a baby's diet to help treat eczema. The reason being is that many babies who have this, it may not actually be beneficial and could be potentially harmful. So we are learning over time that delayed introduction or eliminating foods in infants' diets could increase the development of food allergies. Babies with eczema are at higher risk of developing food allergies, and while we don't know exactly why, it may be due to the fact that their skin is prone to something called Th2 inflammation that could generate allergy antibodies called immunoglobulin E or IgE. These specific protein tags could bind to foods and later on in life could lead to a severe, potentially life-threatening food allergic reaction that would require epinephrine in order to treat it. A baby's immune system is quite malleable, so regular exposure of a food may induce tolerance to prevent food allergies. So it's important to talk with your pediatrician or allergist about these issues before pursuing dietary elimination.
Yeah, whatever that guy says. I'm not an allergist. I'm not going to pretend like I watched that video, saw what was wrong with it, and went, oh, actually, this is not correct. You need to switch out the hemoglobin synapse reflexes with the wibbly-bobbly side. I'm not that guy. This guy is, though, so I'm glad he's given the correct information. I will say, though, I don't know how relevant this is, but I grew up in a rather Filipino area, and every Filipino kid I knew had eczema. I don't know if people in that area of the world are more predispositions to having eczema, but if so, big up all the Filipinos watching my channel who have eczema. I've actually got a surprisingly large Filipino audience, which genuinely makes me very happy because I grew up in a very Filipino area, like I just said, and Filipinos are fucking good people. Like, my best friend JJ is Filipino. Big up JJ if you're watching this, by the way. Now, that one's not too much of a big deal because it's very much a medical fact that isn't widely known and isn't too dangerous, and it's one that this doctor has corrected, and I'm sure it's one that she has taken into consideration. It's one that any parent would take into consideration if they genuinely cared about their child not developing allergies in the future. And I've got no reason to believe that Nika Diwa wants the worst for their children, if that makes sense. Like, there's a lot of controversy around her, but so far, I've not seen anything too bad other than the weird wrestling video. Now, this next one that you're about to see is by far the worst thing that we've covered so far, because it is a widely known medical fact that everybody can agree on that she is deciding to break the mold on and can definitely be dangerous. Now, the original for that video was unsurprisingly taken down because it's a bunch of bullshit. There is no safe amount of alcohol to drink. Just in general, to be honest with you, there's no good amount of alcohol to drink. It's always going to be bad for you, but especially when you're pregnant, there's no good amount of alcohol to drink. Any alcohol that you're consuming during pregnancy is bad. And that's from someone who has very limited medical knowledge. Like, it's a general, almost common sense fact that just everyone knows. You do not drink or smoke when you're pregnant. And as much as the caption here is looking for a mama who won't judge me for being preggo and enjoying a glass every once in a while, I genuinely feel as though if you find that group of people, if you find your tribe that will not judge you for drinking alcohol whilst you're pregnant, you probably need a new group of friends because those people are not willing to hold you accountable for things that you should definitely be doing. Or not doing, I guess. But let's not take my word for it. Just like the last one, there's a lot of doctors who responded to this one, basically affirming that yes, there is no safe amount of alcohol to drink when you're pregnant.
Alcohol in pregnancy is a known toxin and teratogen. That's for certain. And the reason why we make such a big deal of this as obstetricians is that drinking alcohol in pregnancy is not necessary. It is a choice. So for anyone who might be watching this video and is thinking that having a glass of wine or two at some point in pregnancy might be okay just because some influencer with a lot of followers is doing it, think twice before you do that, because again, they're just influencers. They're not medical professionals. Drinking alcohol in pregnancy is not a flex.
That last point there is a particularly important one in my opinion, because it's why this sort of behavior can be so problematic. Like, you are one of the biggest family vloggers, family channels on TikTok. There are undoubtedly a lot of people who have families or plan to have families or are pregnant or will be pregnant that will watch this video and take your behavior as something to look up to, for example. And there are a lot of people who will watch this video from one of the biggest family channels on TikTok and think, ooh, maybe it is okay to have a glass of wine every once in a while even though I'm pregnant. And that sort of thing is genuinely harmful. So it is a good thing that you took the video down, but it was inappropriate and misguided to have it up in the first place. Like, you need to understand that you have a lot of responsibility when you have this much power as well.
Fetal alcohol syndrome is actually really a spectrum of disorders. There's no way for us to know how much alcohol exposure is going to be enough to cause what on that spectrum. Think about it, that entire study would just be completely unethical. So what we do know is that no amount of alcohol in pregnancy is risk-free. No kind of alcohol is risk-free. And at no time is it safe to say that there are no risks associated with drinking in pregnancy. The risks can be anywhere from miscarriage while in utero to even something like SIDS outside of utero. We also know that prenatal alcohol exposure is very dependent on environmental exposures, like for example, cigarette smoking as well, genetics, nutrition. Drinking during pregnancy could result in your child needing developmental services, educational interventions, and even training on social skills. So is it really worth the risk?
And this is the thing, right? When you're planning to become a parent, there's a lot of shit that you cannot control, right? Especially if you're in a certain financial situation. Like, if you have all the money in the world and all the pre-planning in the world, you could do the most incredible shit to make sure you have the healthiest baby possible. You could freeze your eggs at a certain age and come back to it later. You could do all the medical care in the world, all the prenatal care in the world. But the one thing that everyone can do, no matter what your financial situation is not drink and not smoke whilst your kid is in the womb. So in my opinion, there is genuinely no excuse for it. And I understand that there are a lot of people with genuine addictions to cigarettes or alcohol, and that is a genuine issue. Like, addiction is a real thing that I have a lot of sympathy for. But with all due respect, if you have that addiction, do not actively try to get pregnant if you are not willing to combat that addiction or stop before you do so. It's not appropriate, and it is not responsible, and you're probably not ready to be a parent if you're not willing to do something like that.
FASD is the leading known cause of preventable disability in the Western world. 1 in 20 people in the US have FASD. 1 in 25 people in Canada have FASD. There are 428 comorbidities linked with FASD. Please, 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 please don't drink alcohol while pregnant. It is not worth the risk.
So FASD, for those who aren't aware, stands for Fetal Alcohol Spectrum Disorder, and it's a list of potential behavioral or cognitive or physical impairments that come with your parent or mother, specifically, drinking whilst you're in the womb. It is a really genuine issue that affects a lot of children, and it really is, I don't vibe with it. I don't vibe with that shit. The fact that it happens to so many people, the fact that there are that many people who are drinking whilst they're pregnant and affecting their kid willingly as well, because everyone knows that drinking whilst your kid is in the womb is not a good thing. Everyone knows that. So the fact that so many people are so willing to do it is a genuine issue, in my opinion, that needs to be spoken about a bit more than we already are. Like, more people need to understand just how harmful that actually is. Because in my mind, and I would love to have children at some point, I would imagine, in fact, no, I know that everyone's deepest concern when having a child is, I really hope that my kid's going to be healthy. I really hope all the scans come and it's a normal, healthy baby with nothing wrong with it. And that's why, me personally, I'm going to do everything in my power to make that happen. And I'm talking like use the money that I get from this YouTube channel. I'm talking I'm going to stay as fit as possible, because it's actually been proven that the father's fitness level a year and a half before conception is really important when it comes to the kid's level of fitness and the kid's level of health. It's a very interesting study that I would genuinely urge a lot of people to go and look up, because, man, there's so many factors that you couldn't even begin to imagine that affect your baby's health. But because it's such a hope that most people will have a nice, healthy baby with nothing wrong with it, I genuinely just could not imagine actively doing something that you know will harm that baby in the long run. I couldn't imagine actively doing something that only heightens the anxiety, only heightens the possibility of getting a baby that is not as healthy as you want it to be. Especially because if you're a child with FASD, I would imagine a lot of people who have that sort of thing would have a lot of resentment towards their parents for allowing them to, you know, have that sort of disorder. And maybe it's not really my place to speak on that sort of thing, but it's one of those situations where I'm more than happy to hear your opinions on the matter. Like, if I'm saying anything here that is outwardly ignorant or just bullshit, then feel free to tell me, genuinely. Here's another bit of questionable parenting that goes beyond just bad medical advice. I was having an anxiety attack because my baby wouldn't stop screaming, and this lady asked if she could hold her to give me a break. Now, my issue here is not necessarily with the person who made the offer to take the baby, because, in my opinion, it is entirely possible, and probable, in fact, that it was an offer made in good faith. Like, I do not think that this woman had nefarious intentions or ulterior motives when taking the baby off of Nika Diwa. I don't think they were scheming, looking at this baby like, ooh, I can steal them, run away, and never return them to their mother. I think it was a genuine, wow, this mother looks like they're really struggling. Let me offer them some genuine help. But that being said, I could not imagine how this would be a good thing for the child if they're already screaming and already panicked, to be given to a complete stranger who is now tapping their mouth like some weird fucking, like that. When I go to weddings, this is what Egyptian weddings are like. Everyone's fucking going, woo! I would not want someone holding me and doing that shit to me whilst I was screaming and crying in fear. And me personally, if I was feeling anxious, having an anxiety attack, the last thing I would want is for a complete stranger to be holding my child. I think that would heighten my anxiety by about 10 times, and it would also probably heighten the baby's anxiety by about fucking 100 times. This is one of the most infamous TikToks that she's made. This is one of the most infamous accounts of her being a questionable parent, in my opinion. Like, this is not a good thing to do. It's one thing if you know the person, but like, this is a complete stranger. This is not normal. You should not do this. This one here is just a fucking really odd one.
Zizi, what are you doing? Zizi, what are you doing? What's in your hand? What's in your hand?
I can hear something.
What's in your hand? What's in your Oh my god. Give that to mommy. Give me up, mommy. Give it to mommy.
No.
Why? Can you please give it to
No.
Well, don't rub it on your neck. Don't rub that on your neck.
Yeah, this isn't good. Don't do this, and don't record it. What the fuck is going on here? Well, I get it, right? If your kid just so happens to stumble upon something that they shouldn't have, it's like an adult toy or whatever, it's like, oh, ha, look at this wee baby. They think that my fucking sex machine is just a phone that they can use, and it's a funny haha joke. No, look at that. My 3-year-old toddler has the nuclear codes to blow up Luxembourg. They shouldn't be holding that. They're just a wee child. They're not mature enough to handle something like that. I get it. I can see why it would be funny. But it's something that should only be funny within the privacy, within the 4 walls of you and the father. Nobody else. We should not be seeing this. And the fact that we are seeing this is suspicious because, in my opinion, it's another staged video. Like, nobody can tell me that this child just so happened to waltz up to the cupboard, picked that cupboard out of all the cupboards in the room, out of all the rooms in the house, picked that item out of all the items in that cupboard and went, oh, what is this, a phone? It doesn't look like a phone at all. What the fuck is she doing? In my opinion, Nika Diwa absolutely went, hey, just do me a favor, go up to the cupboard, take this thing out of it, press the button, and then pretend it's a phone. It's gonna be so funny. And then guess what? Our rent is paid for the next 2 months, baby! Was it worth it? I personally don't think so, because now this kid's gonna grow up and have this video on the internet forever. They're gonna be 20 years old talking to their work colleagues who are gonna be like, oh, remember that time your mum forced you to play with a vibrator when you were 3 years old and put it on your neck and rub it on your bare skin? Shit's weird, man. I don't know what to tell you. Interestingly enough, I actually got like a sponsor opportunity from a sex toy company, which I will not be saying the name of for obvious reasons because it didn't happen. I was considering it for a point, but then I thought, you know what? I have a younger audience, a lot of them. It's just more effort. I think I'd rather just be better safe than sorry. I don't want to take the sponsorship very much. I'm not very interested in the product myself, so that's what I told the brand. I was like, you know what? Don't bother sending them. We're good. I'm not going to take the sponsorship. But for some bizarre reason, they emailed me back going, okay, well, we'll send them anyway, and you can try the products out, and I'll tell you what, if you really like them, then you can take the sponsorship, the offer's still on the table, and I'm sat there thinking, even if I love them, even if I take them and I love them so much, I'm using them every hour of every day, I'm using them whilst I record even, I could love them that much. I'm still not taking this sponsorship, I'm just gonna be happy that you gave me free toys. And sure enough, I got a package one day, like a month after the initial sponsorship email was sent, so I forgot what the package was gonna be, and I was opening it in the kitchen with my roommate in the room whilst I was eating fucking cereal, opened it up, and sure enough, there's a bunch of fucking roses and toys in there. She knows exactly what they are, and she's side-eyeing me with the most fucking, well, I'm glad to see that your YouTube career's going well, pal. And they were all female toys as well. I do not have the, body mechanisms to even use the toys. So I don't know what they were talking about when they were like, yeah, just test them out on yourself. It's like, did you not watch a second of my fucking channel, guy? So they've just sort of been sitting in the cupboard collecting dust for as long as I've had them. If only I had a tiny child that I could exploit for views on TikTok and make a really shit skit where they pick up the rose and pretend that it's like a fun plant in the garden that's like really pretty or something. That would probably be the best way to fucking use them, right?
I just wanted to acknowledge that we're on vacation and mommy is a little bit stressed, you think?
Yeah. Going on vacation can be very stressful.
Yeah, and so I'm sorry if I've been yelling, if I've been snappy, if I've been short. I'm really sorry.
I mean, this immediately puts the last video into question. It is the most rehearsed, fake, fucking setup thing ever. Ain't nobody gonna tell me that you set your camera up and frame your family in the perfect position and have a real genuine conversation with them like this. This is ridiculous. Even the children are like, what the fuck is actually going on here? You can tell in their eyes.
I'm gonna do my best to be better today, but I can't guarantee that I'm not gonna get overwhelmed. But if I do, I'm gonna try to take a couple breaths and restart.
Put it there, pal.
See, that's overstimulating.
Thing is, because I've been overstimulated before, I know what that shit feels like, and it really isn't an excuse to treat the people who are supposed to be the closest to you like shit. And the way that she's sort of warning them, like, look, I'm gonna try my best to compose myself, but when I get angry and the Hulk smash comes out, I cannot promise that I will not destroy a couple of colonies. Okay, obviously she wasn't that extreme about it, but you know what I mean. It's like, the way that she's ramping it up and almost preparing them for what she's about to fucking do. It's like it's quite nefarious. And I'm not saying that I've acted perfectly every time I'm overstimulated. Sometimes I lose my rag and treat someone like shit, and then you just sort of have to apologize, work through it, and if you're good pals, you'll understand each other, so it's no biggie. And to be fair, we haven't seen quite yet how she acts around her kids when she's quote-unquote overstimulated, but once we get into that, you'll start to realize how maybe she needs to learn how to cope with being overstimulated around her children, because some of her coping mechanisms are a little bit dangerous. I don't know, like, this video just seems very guilt-trippy and almost awkward for everyone involved. If someone was talking to me like that, I would sort of get the vibe of like, okay, so if you fucking piss me off, am I not allowed to get angry at you anymore? Like, are you gonna be like, oh, hang on, I'm overstimulated right here, this is a legitimate issue with me, you're not allowed to get mad, I've warned you about this. Like, no, if you're treating me like shit, I'm allowed to be annoyed, especially if I'm your, you know, your weak kid who you're literally holding in your hands. So how exactly does Nika cope with being overstimulated? Well, luckily there's a video of it right here, and this one's rather popular. POV, you feel like a shit mum because sometimes you have to hide in the pantry when your kid is screaming. Now, my silly British mind doesn't actually know what a pantry is. Let me figure it out very quickly. A pantry is a room or cupboard where beverages, food, dishes, household cleaning products, linens, or provisions are stored within a home or office. Fucking hell, I'm looking at these pictures here. Is this like a normal thing in America? Can you guys tell me? Because I've got a mainly American audience. Do you have a pantry? Because this is like luxury in the UK. If I went into someone's house here in Scotland and they had a pantry, you would assume that they're in like the upper class. Nobody I knew growing up had anything like that. That is fucking insane that you guys have that as just like a normal thing. Anyway, we're getting off topic. We'll watch this TikTok.
Cherries!
Okay, so this is where my inexperience as a parent, I say inexperience, no experience as a parent comes into play, because I have no idea what it's like to have a child that is screaming to that level and have to deal with it. And I would assume that if it's something that happens regularly and you're perhaps neurodivergent or somebody who is prone to being overstimulated, yes, it could indeed be really, really, really bad for you mentally. Which is why in an ideal world you would get all of your issues figured out before you had children, so that when you had that child, you can deal with it in the most mature and amazing way possible. Obviously, we don't live in an ideal world, so not every parent can do that shit. And I guess if the alternative is that she really can't hold herself in and she needs to blow up on that child, hiding in the pantry is without doubt a better alternative than going fucking apeshit at the child for crying, which is a completely normal thing for a child to do. So there is definitely a way to justify this type of behavior, in my opinion. I will read the top comment on this TikTok. I guess I was emotionally stronger than I thought. As a teen mom, especially without a nanny or babysitter regularly, I never thought for a second to do this. Now that's an interesting comment, because on the surface it sounds like, oh, they're a teen mom, this is an adult mom, she should be more mature than the teen mom because she's older, has more experience or whatever, but that's not really a fair comparison because everyone's different, and overstimulation is very much a real thing that everyone has different levels of. For some people it doesn't take a lot, for some people they really have a high bar, like it takes so much for them to actually feel overstimulated, and then for some people it's like a slow build up, for some people it's like a, I'll be fine, I'll be fine, I'll be fine, I'll be fine, I'm raging, I'm raging, I'm raging! It's just so idiosyncratic person to person that it's not really fair to judge someone else to another person. You should only really be judging yourself to yourself yesterday, if that makes sense. I know it's a cliche, but it's so true. I think the fairest thing to do here would be to watch another mother's perspective on this situation, because I don't really have much room to talk in this scenario.
I'm just here to tell you that you're not a shit mom. See, all of us moms, we've been there. See, I hide in the bathroom. I hide in the bathroom when I need a moment for my kids, or when my husband and my household and the noise and everything is so goddamn fucking overstimulating. So no, you're not a shit mom. And we all need those moments. And for everybody in her comments who are like, oh my God, I never want a life like this. You know what? Good. I'm glad you're aware of that. But that's not what she needs to fucking hear. Okay? Because the way I see it is, all of the videos that you post, your kids are healthy, happy, well taken care of. You're loved. He's loved. Y'all are loved. You're doing all right, mama. So take that moment you need. It is okay. We as parents, us moms, we got you. We understand.
Now look, there is undoubtedly some shit in this video that will be critiqued. Like, there is so much that this mother does that deserves to be taken the piss out of. This is not really one of them, in my opinion. I will say, however, the most dodgy part of it for me is the fact that she is recording it and vlogging it in the style of every other one of her vlogs, because when you do that, inherently, it's gonna feel performative to an extent. Like, you've set your little camera up, you've propped it up in your pantry, and you're eating your Sour Patch Kids, you put some tears on your face, potentially, maybe they're real, maybe they're not, who fucking knows? But when you record yourself like that and put yourself on TikTok in front of genuinely 16 million people that TikTok has, you cannot be surprised when some people criticize you for leaving your child to scream and yell while you sit in the pantry and eat Sour Patch Kids, and record yourself doing it, no less. I guess inauthentic is the word that I'm looking for here. But once again, like the first TikTok, if this was the one situation where she was overstimulated and posted it on her TikTok, because it does seem quite genuine here, there wouldn't really be an issue. But when you take all of her other behavior into account and the amount of overstimulations that she presents on the TikTok account, where it's blatantly fake, blatantly inauthentic, and blatantly just set up bullshit, it makes you put this one into question as well. But this is one of those situations, no doubt, where I'd really appreciate if a lot of the mothers or fathers, just parents in general, put in the comments what you think about this situation, because I would genuinely appreciate it.
You are not stupid. You are actually quite smart. You do your best. And that's all that matters. You are safe to make mistakes.
See, again, this is like a totally legitimate way to deal with feeling anxious. I do this all the fucking time when I'm going through something. I stand up and I basically yell, "You're good, you're good, you're good." But it's just the fact that it's recorded. It really does seem inauthentic. Like, I could not fucking imagine recording myself doing that shit. No less propping my camera up while I'm sat down in my bare fucking feet and then putting soppy, try-hard, sad music in the background and uploading it to TikTok for 21 seconds for millions of people to see. Like, that shit just does seem odd. Maybe it's real once again, maybe this is completely legitimate, but it's definitely odd, and I won't have anyone argue against me with that shit. Every time the school number pops up and I get a hi, this is the school nurse calling. Yeah, she's hamming it up, man. I'm not having this. This one I'm not fucking having. The other ones, you could convince me, oh, maybe it's real, maybe it's not. This is not real. No one does this. No one goes, oh no, I need to pick my kid up early. Let me fucking force choke myself whilst my hair's being cut in public. Shit's odd. Like, if I saw anyone in a hairdresser, if I was sat down waiting for my haircut and there was a woman on a chair strangling themselves because they got a phone call, I'd be thinking, what the fuck is going on? Unless Darth fucking Vader's on the other end of that phone line, this is not acceptable behavior. I will say though, this woman has mastered the art of opening her mouth and making weird guttural noises, but not actually screaming. Like, I don't know if I could, I'll give it a shot. I'm not putting that in the video. If I put that in the video, just know that I've lost all sense of self-worth.
There's a lot of sounds in here. Be quiet! Be quiet, please! Stop! No, no, no. Everyone.
I mean, this is just one that seems genuinely quite nice. I can't think of anything to criticize her, other than, you know, the obvious fact that you're recording your kids and using them for content, but I mean, we're used to that by now. It's fucking TikTok family channels. It's gonna keep happening. There's no fucking point complaining about it anymore. It's not something I would personally ever do, but fuck it, man. If you want to do it, then just don't take the piss, I guess. But this situation, in and of itself, it does not seem fake at all. It seems real. It doesn't seem staged. It's handled fine. I don't have much to criticize about it. Okay, next is the great section that all good parents do, which is sharing information that their children are definitely too young to be engaging in conversations about, and then spreading those videos online for millions of people to see and hold over these children's heads for the rest of their lives.
The baby is 2 years old, okay? And I just can't figure out an effective way to have the punani and peen conversation with her. Again, she's literally a baby. Listen, I'm open to feedback. How do you think I should explain that to a toddler?
I'll tell you how I would explain it to a toddler. I fucking wouldn't. They do not need to know about it. They're a fucking toddler. I remember when I was younger, the way that I learned about shagging for the first time was a book called Living with a Willy. It wasn't even a book that my parents bought for me. It was just a book in the flat that I lived in that the previous tenants had left for whatever reason. I guess it was very not useful for them. From what I remember, they didn't even have children, so maybe one of the adults in the household just thought it would be funny to buy a book called Living with a Willy. I want to find this book now. Living with... Yeah, this is real. Here we go, found it. Living with a Willy, The Inside Story, a book by Nick Fisher. As ridiculous as this might look to all of you, this brings back memories for me. This is fucking nostalgic, this. Growing up with a Willy nestling down your Y-fronts is a strange business. Some days it's a major hoot. Other days it's a prime source of serious depression. I don't want to go too off topic with this video, but I'll tell you one thing. If the search results for that book don't go up after this video is released, I will be sorely disappointed. I might just order a copy for the nostalgia alone, fuck it. But yeah, bottom line, your kid's 2 years old. There's no need to teach them about shagging, in my opinion. Is that a controversial opinion? Probably not.
You'll get the baby about.
Guilty. Well, God put the baby in mommy's belly.
Maybe
I guess that's the TikTok that might have sparked the conversation for this next one that we're about to watch, where she actually does explain how babies are born to her 2-year-old. Let's give it a watch and see if it's appropriate or not.
So first we're gonna try to get it out of the vagina.
Vagina?
And open it up.
Baby. Mama, pish.
1, 2, 3.
Pish. I want to see a baby.
Okay, we're gonna have to do a C-section.
There's the baby!
I'll hold it.
You wanna hold it? Congratulations. So that's the birth. Zizi, did you just eat the baby?
I think this is good. I think this is good, to be fair. Albeit, maybe it's a bit early, but this is good. I like this. I think in an ideal world, school would be the place where all children learn about the birth-giving process, for lack of a better term. I think it is unfair to say, oh, parents should be the only ones teaching their children about this sort of thing, because not everybody has 2 parents, not everybody has parents in general, not everybody has good parents. It's just there's so many different scenarios where it's not an ideal world, right? So ideally, the school system should be built in a way where sex education is taught in a mature and I guess just good way to all children, because most children do go to school. However, if you are a parent who is financially stable, as these two clearly are, who has the ability to spend time with your children and conversate with them, as these two clearly do, then I do think generally it is recommended and you should absolutely be giving them the talk about the birds and the bees, so to speak. Like, that is your responsibility to an extent. And I think this way of doing it is totally fine, because they're not doing it way too seriously, they're laughing about it, it's funny, right? I always hated in school when they'd be like, if you laugh during this fucking period, you're out. You have to leave the classroom and write an apology letter. You need to write 100 times, I am sorry for laughing during the penis section of this school video. Like, it's just a funny topic that a lot of kids are gonna laugh about. Fucking get over it, man. I will say, though, the only joke that shouldn't be allowed is that one twat. There's always that one unfunny prick who in science, when they're like, today we're learning about reproduction, there's always that one annoying wee fucker who goes, ooh, are we gonna do a practical today? Fuck off. It's never funny. It's never been funny. No one likes you. You have no friends. And frankly, I hope you never reproduce, because if you do, your kids will probably think that that shit's funny, and the cycle will continue. Okay, that's being heavily fucking blurred, and I'm very uncomfortable that I even saw what was put on screen. That shit is bad. That's disturbing. Don't do that. That might be the worst thing so far. In fact, that's definitely the worst thing so far. You don't fucking do that shit. I don't vibe with that at all. Once again, this is a totally fine conversation to have with your child in the privacy of your own home, within the four walls, with no camera on you. That shit is weird. Not only because it's just such a private moment to begin with that people should not be watching, this is not something that anybody should be watching, but also, and I hate to take it to this level, but it's so true, the amount of predators online who'll be bookmarking videos like this and watching them later for not innocent reasons, to put it lightly, is staggering, and that is something that you should be fucking aware of as a parent on the internet who puts your child online. Shit like this is just horrendously irresponsible. Now, I don't have the original video at hand because, luckily, and this is a good thing, by the way, the video was deleted. It sucks that it was ever made and published in the first place and shown to 7 million people, I think is the amount of views it had, but luckily it was deleted, which is good, right? That is a good thing. As much as genuinely at this point I believe that she has shown herself to be irresponsible and not worthy to put her children online, or even have an online presence when you're doing that sort of thing, you should not be online, and at the very least, not be online with your children as a central part of your content, because it's clearly going too far. But in the original video, she was using slang terms and sort of jokey names for the genitalia instead of the actual name for it. And this is seemingly a harmless thing that a lot of parents do. In fact, only 10% of children actually know the correct names for their genitalia. I'll link this really interesting article in the description about how teaching your kids slang names actually increases the chance of sexual abuse in the future. For now, I'll just read a wee section from it because I feel like it is an important piece of information for people watching this video to know, but if you want to read the whole article, it is in the description. When we teach our kids incorrect names for private body parts, kids get the message that they will get in trouble if they speak about private body parts. They may not confide in adults if someone touches them inappropriately. This practice can shut down vital communication for children who need adults to help them understand the world. Sexual abusers rely on secrets and silence to commit their sexual acts. If children believe they cannot say the names of their private parts, they send a message to abusers that they are safe targets. Abusers think children who are ashamed of their bodies will likely be too embarrassed to ever tell anyone. Now, that is not by any means a commonly known piece of information, so I'm not necessarily blaming Nika Diwa for not knowing it, but I figured I'd put it in here because it is a genuinely useful bit of information for people to know. Including Nika Diwa, by the way. It's something that in an ideal world, all family channels would be preaching, because there are a lot of parents, a lot of future parents who look up to them, and it's definitely the type of information that those parents should be taught. Yeah, so I've just found this Reddit post which says that nicknames like Wee Wee, Pee Pee, Wiener, and Cookie were being used. If there's one thing you guys take away from this video, it should be that fact alone. Okay, next in this video is the weird number of times that she mentions how African her husband and baby is. It seems relatively harmless when you just say it, like, on paper, but the amount of times she does it and the way she does it is strange, to say the least. POV, realizing you need to push out a whole African baby, as opposed to what, like half an African baby? You know what, I make that joke, but technically this is a half African baby, because she's Filipino and the bloke is African, so the baby is not a whole African baby, it is indeed a half African baby. So you've been bested here, Nika Diwa.
Afternoon. What can I do for you?
I need to buy a gun.
I don't understand what the thought process was for this. It's not like offensive or anything, it's just strange. Like, this is a bit of whiplash from the shit we were covering before, because that was genuinely abhorrent. This is just like, Could you imagine them scripting this? She sat there going, all right, here's the plan. I'm going to sit on this beanbag and bounce about and talk about how I want to kill myself whilst you stand menacingly in the background like a bouncer and flex your bicep. Who knows what the fucking thought process was, but it did well for them, I guess.
Deezy, you're going to be a good nurse when you grow up.
No, I'm a daddy.
Deezy, you're going to be a good nurse when you grow up.
I have no idea what the relevance of the mum being Filipina and the dad being Nigerian has to do with this video at all. I guess there's a stereotype of those particular races being nurses when they grow up. I mean, here in the UK at least, a lot of Nigerian immigrants that come into the country end up becoming nurses for the NHS, for example, and that shit's great. Like, it really is genuinely great, but I don't understand what this caption is implying because there's also a lot of Filipino nurses. Like, I would say half of my Filipino pals have mothers who are nurses. In fact, half of my pals who have immigrants as parents have nurses who are mothers, including myself, by the way. I don't know what the situation is like in America. I don't know what the Filipino community or the Nigerian community is like in America. Maybe it's a completely different thing, but me personally, I just genuinely cannot see how the race is important for this TikTok at all, or why the butt is there. I don't get it. I feel like this should be a caption for like a completely different video. I'm trying to picture a scenario in which this caption would actually be relevant, right? I think I've got one, because you Filipinos, for everyone watching this video, you've got this incredible magical ability to turn anything into a breakfast by just plopping a fried egg upon it. And what you do, you make your fried eggs, you almost burn them at the bottom. I will not say you do burn them because I know that's sacrilege, but they're crispy at the bottom. It's fucking delicious, by the way. So if you got like a crispy fried egg and put it on a bed of jollof rice, for example, then maybe this caption would make sense. But her just playing doctor with a doll doesn't really do it for me. I don't get it. Maybe someone can explain it. When your rented black baby is going back because you made your own. I'm not gonna sit here and be like, this is the most disgusting thing ever. Obviously, it's a joke, right? They're not actually abandoning the first kid because they have a biological one now. And I guess it is up to interpretation whether or not you think this is an appropriate joke to make, and at the end of the day, they're the family, they're the ones with the kids, so maybe it's their choice more than anyone else's. But I wouldn't exactly feel too great if I had one biological parent and lived with like a stepmom and found out they were making that type of joke about me. Like, if I was known as the rented black baby, I wouldn't really appreciate that. But fuck it, man, who knows? Maybe that kid just has a sense of humor where she can handle that type of joke. You gon' make me need Now, there's nothing too offensive or weird about that video in particular, but I only bring it up because of the top comment, which I just have to read to you. No offending, and yes, I'm an American, I thought only white and black people can make a light-skinned baby. I'm not even gonna commentate on that, it's just a funny comment that I thought I should definitely read to you. If any of you feel silly today, just know that there's someone out there who genuinely thinks like that. Okay, now we'll move on to the video that you guys actually probably know them from. I know it's taken a while, but this is without doubt a video that you've seen if you're online or on TikTok at all in the past few months.
Could you ever cheat on me?
Absolutely. That's why I don't make dumb decisions like talking to guys one-on-one or hanging out in like compromising situations, because I'm a human being, you're a human being, and I'm sorry, babe, I don't know if this is hard for you to hear, but everybody is absolutely capable of infidelity in the right/wrong circumstances.
Oh, okay.
That's why boundaries are so important. You're never going to see me in a situation, even if people think I might be too strict, I don't care, because I'm not taking that chance.
Amen.
I'm not putting myself in a position to even be close to a position to potentially fall to temptation. I'm going to keep it 100 because anyone is capable of cheating, but I will not be cheating on you.
Excellent. I love that.
I love you.
Now, me personally, I think that this video is fair enough, because every relationship is different, and if this is how their relationship operates, I'm totally fine with that. It's none of my business at the end of the day. But as I'm sure a lot of you can predict, and as I'm sure they were intending, by the way, this sparked a lot of discourse. I'll play one creator's reaction to this whole thing, and I'll give my opinion as she does.
Not only do I think that her husband fed her those lines, but I think that the people who tend to think like this are forcing the compatibility in their relationships for the sake of maintaining their own comfort. While I know that cheating is extremely normalized in our society, I think a common misconception that a lot of people have is that everyone is capable of cheating under the right circumstances, and that is simply not true.
I think so far that's absolutely right. I think people who do say that everyone is capable of cheating under the right circumstances are usually people who are capable of cheating under the right circumstances. And for them, it's just easier to think, ah, well, everyone's like this, you know what I mean? But at the same time, it's very easy for someone to say, oh, I would never cheat. I would never do something so disgusting. It's like, alright, well, it's well and good to say that, but to actually do it is a different thing. Like, just saying words doesn't really mean much. That's why if someone was to ever come on camera, like as a YouTuber, and be like, me personally, I would never cheat. It's like, alright, mate, do you want a fucking biscuit? Like, I hope that's true for your and your relationship's sake, but why the fuck are you telling me this?
I think a common misconception that a lot of people have is that everyone is capable of cheating under the right circumstances, and that is simply not true. If you're a monogamous-leaning person, but your impulse to cheat is so strong that you can't even be in the same room with the gender that you're attracted to, that is a major sign that you are with the wrong person.
I think that's fair enough. What this woman's saying here is a fair thing to say, but to be fair, that's not exactly what Nika Diwa was saying at all. Like, she is putting words in her mouth slightly here. Nika Diwa was not saying, I cannot even be in the room with another man, otherwise I know it'll just happen. I can't allow myself to do that shit. I think if we look at it from the perspective of, like, let's say you're married, but your relationship's going through a bit of a rough period, you will not purposefully go out to a pub or a bar or a place where other people will be around, people who may be looking to hook up with you, for example, because you know that when your relationship is in that sort of period, you are more likely to be unable to resist the temptation, so to speak. It's not something that I personally go through, but it is something that I can definitely understand some people thinking about. It's never as simple as cheating bad, don't do it, if you do it, you're an arsehole, and not cheating good, if you don't cheat, you're a brilliant person. It's like, man, fucking newsflash, relationships are complicated and the world is very, very, very fucking complicated.
Although resisting the urge to cheat can be a sign of discipline and self-control, it is also your mind and body's way of telling you that you are losing physical and or emotional attraction to your partner. And sometimes you can get it back, sometimes you can't. But ignoring that strong impulse to cheat is just going to make it manifest in less ideal ways. Like being rude, being neglectful. It can even escalate to emotional or physical abuse, or you can end up eventually acting on your impulse to cheat. I know that marriage culture has taught us that once you exchange vows or have been together for a long time, that you're supposed to do everything in your power to make it work. But all that thinking does is keep people trapped in situations that they do not want to be in. And I don't know about y'all, but if I found out that my boyfriend wanted to cheat on me so badly that he actively had to avoid working with certain clients or avoid being in a room with certain people, y'all would never hear from me again.
I think there's definitely points either way, but it changes once you have children, because there is definitely more of a reason to try your best to stay together with your partner once children are involved in the equation, especially when they're young children, because as the kids get older, the damage you do by divorcing or separating with your partner definitely decreases, but especially when they're at that young stage, I think you absolutely should do everything in your power to keep the marriage or relationship as healthy as possible, as long as it doesn't get to a point where you are actively damaging the people that you're around because your relationship is so shitty. Like, if you're screaming at your partner every day, or there is abuse involved, or you're arguing all the time, then yeah, obviously it would be better if you separated. But if there are minor disagreements, or just shit in general that can be worked out, you should probably try your damnedest to actually work it out instead of just leaving at the earliest possible convenience. And that is especially true when children are involved. You know what? I think that's probably a good place to end the video. I think my final verdict here is that this is someone who, in my opinion, I'll just theorize a bit of a game theory here. I think that Nika Diwa is someone who went on TikTok genuinely, as they stated in the intro, as somebody who suffered from postpartum depression and wanted to find some sort of community or just to post their experiences online as a mother. I think that there's someone who definitely did not get into this business expecting to become as big as they eventually have become. I don't think that they were expecting to eventually game the system and rage bait and do as much clear gamesmanship as they are currently doing, but I do think that this is someone who maybe once or twice posted a few videos of them genuinely struggling as a parent, maybe them in the pantry crying whilst their children were screaming in the background, and wanting to post that sort of thing to show other mothers out there that it is an okay thing to sometimes be overwhelmed when you're parenting your children. I think that one of those videos went super viral, and as a result of that, Nika Diwa saw that virality and thought, ooh, maybe I should just start staging this sort of reaction and doing it more, because clearly that's the sort of thing that brings in views and money is what I need to support my family, so this is a good thing, right? And that is true to an extent, right? It is good to earn money for your family, and doing it via TikTok or something that you love or something that allows you to stay in the house around those children is a great thing. However, like most content creators, eventually they get fucking TikTok brain and it starts to infect their mind, because fuck me, I've only noticed recently at my low level of internet virality reality how much this shit affects your brain. And I think she continued her career upping the levels, until she eventually did stupid shit like changing her baby's diaper in front of everybody watching in a completely inappropriate manner because she genuinely didn't see anything wrong with it. Now, that is not something she would have done at the start of her career, but because she's gained so much success doing things and staging reactions in the way that she had, it's something that she thought, ooh, this will be appropriate, this will get me views, this will get me money. And now she's resorted to doing horrific shit like that and rage baiting and essentially exploiting her children for views and money on TikTok. So whilst yes, I do think it did start from a genuine place, it's definitely at a point now where she needs to reel it back a little bit and sort of, I guess, wind your fucking neck in, as we'd say here. I don't think that the Nika Diwa TikTok channel is a good thing for TikTok to be promoting. Like, there is shit on here that is really inappropriate. There's some harmless stuff, like them talking about the cheating, for example. That was a huge controversy for no reason, in my opinion. It's none of our business and what their relationship is like. But the shit that damages the children, for example, it's like, fuck, man. This does not need to be on the internet, and it shouldn't be on the internet, and people definitely have the right to question your ability as a parent because of the way that you're putting it online. Now, that being said, I could be totally wrong. Maybe she got into TikTok planning to gamesmanship the whole thing from the start. Maybe she knew exactly what she was doing from day dot. I don't know. I'm not her fucking husband. I'm not her. I cannot enter her mind. So who knows? But for now, I think that's the end of the video. As always, hopefully you all enjoyed. If you did, be sure to subscribe to the channel, especially you Luxembourgians. I've not forgot about you, by the way. If you don't subscribe, say bye-bye to everything you've loved. But yeah, as always, appreciate you all. Thanks for watching, and I'll catch you all in the next one. Bye.